This week in InBody Yoga Academy teacher training, we are focusing on the fourth Yama, which is Brahmacharya. I think that this is the most confused Yama because it's often translated as celibacy. And the reason why we would abstain from sexual desires is because we would then have more of our vital life force energy to use in the pursuit of our spirituality and seeing the divine in all things and being useful for that. The way that I like to practice this Yama is by being mindful of where my energy is being blocked and where it is leaking so that I can conserve more of my energy so that I too can use it for my spiritual practice, for my spiritual pursuit, for seeing and being useful for this one force. One of the biggest ways that I see myself losing my energy is with fear. When I'm in fear, I feel separate from instead of with one with. And when I'm in fear thinking I'm not good enough or in fear of the future, I'm just wasting so much of my energy that I could be using to become more spiritually fit or being useful to other people or seeing the oneness and helping support that oneness and equality for all. The practice we're going to be moving through is going to focus on the universal principle of alignment, muscular energy, and organic energy. So how do we draw into ourselves and contain and generate our energy? And then how do we extend out our energy without depleting ourselves? We'll start by moving through some forward folds to standing and then through some sun salutations. Moving with the breath and feeling that connection from our feet, from our hands, drawing into our core, and from our core extending and lengthening out. We'll be doing that same action in table Shalabhasana, playing with some handstands. We probably won't play with handstands as much in the public class. And then coming into an active pigeon, drawing up into the hips so we're protecting our knees and our feet and our ankles. And extending from our hips down into the earth, from the hips down and up, taking some side stretches. Playing around with this in Pasarita Padottanasana, from the feet drawing up and into the hips. And then from the hips extending out through the feet. And of course I had to try to jump into handstand because it's just so fun. Playing with my daughter as she plays with pipe cleaners and a colander. It's always a good win for entertaining children. And then taking this into warrior twos in Parsvakonasana, same actions from the feet, draw into the hips, from the hands, draw into the hips. From this place of energy, extend back out. Same thing in Trikonasana. How do you draw into yourself? How do you extend out? Do you do this in a way that lets you serve others more, that lets you show up for yourself and your own spiritual practice more? Or is the way you use your energy so depleting that you have nothing else to give to yourself and to the world? I think this is so important, especially in what we're going through today. Like, how can we see the oneness in other people without being so stuck in our head that all we see is separation? That's when we're being asked to really practice this containment of energy so we can see that divinity in all. I just did Bridget's cross and then dolphin to Pinchamanirasana, and now doing a Supta Virasana, containing that energy in the core and lengthening out. Doing downward facing dog at the wall is a great way of being able to draw it into the heart and then to press out. Doing that upside down as well, and then stretching it out into Hanumanasana up the wall, or Wall Onasana, but drawing into the pelvis, extending out. It's very repetitive, but we need to practice this because it's so hard to do when we're off the mat. Doing some torture poses, so doing these quad stretches at the wall in a low lunge Anjaneyasana and then Ardha Hanumanasana. Warming up the hamstrings and the quads and the hip flexors as we move into the peak pose, Hanumanasana. I love doing this with my foot at the wall because I have something to push out into. Keeping the hips squared and leveled, keeping the back thigh bone rooted towards the hamstring, so practicing ahimsa, that first yama, remembering that all these yamas build on top of each other, so we want to be still practicing our non-violence, our truthfulness, non-stealing. doing this in some bridge poses, and then cooling down with rooting the femur asymmetrically, and then taking it into Supta Padangusthasana A, B, C, and into what Siana calls mantra missile. Ways you can practice Brahmacharya on your yoga mat is by practicing your ability to focus and reducing distractions, not bringing sexuality in class, thinking like what's motivating you to dress the way you're dressing or to move the way you're moving, because that's distracting for not only you but for the other students. And also figuring out how to redirect excessive energy. So instead of having excessive energy drain out in ways that aren't helpful, how can you refocus it to your intention or to your mantra or to your breath? Ways to practice this off of your yoga mat is, again, how do you redirect excessive energy? Can you bring it back to your intention or your breath or a cause you believe in or being useful to someone else? Figuring out how to direct that energy to what's truly important. How much of your energy are you wasting on TV or on your cell phone or on social media or spending money? And how can you take that energy and direct it again to your spiritual practice so that you can show up to the world more useful?